And here we go. It is another RC After Hours podcast. It is, I don't know, Sunday. I think it's like the 29th of March. I don't know about anybody else, but it's been a wild couple of weeks, a little bit of bumpy ride. So this podcast is going to be just a relaxed affair. And like I said, when I get going, I don't wait. Look, there's my guest, Steve. How you doing, buddy? So we brought in...
Yeah, I'm very well.
Woo! Hold on here. I'm going to change something quickly. I got you in an echo. But yes, so Steve and I were chatting back and forth, and it was like, now let's just get him on the show. I tried to do something last night, but it was, this morning. Sorry, yeah. This is the problem. When we're in this time of year, it's what, a 15-hour time difference? So it's the middle of the morning for Steve. Yeah. Well, it's 8 o'clock at night over here on the Eastern Seaboard. So, but we managed to get them all locked in. There's Bob, there's Bill, there's Victor. Hey, guys. So we're just going to have a fun
everyone.
show. Go ahead, Steve.
We've got a lot to talk about. A lot's happened.
Know.
I've been away from the hobby for about 6 months, so it's good. It's going to be good. No, not 6 months, but a few months. And it's going to be good to get back into it again. And I've sort of, reinvigorated my hobby interest again. It's been a while since I've actually even flown an aeroplane. A complete separation from the hobby. I'm still the president of the local flying club, which is my sponsor, Penrith Electric Model Aero Club. Look it up on Facebook. Best photos you're ever going to see of any RC aeroplane ever. It's fantastic. Our photographer there, Chris Lundy, his name is, fantastic guy, and takes photos and sends them around to all the members about their aeroplanes and does a fantastic job. And the photos are first class. He's a top bloke. Excellent. Nice. Legend of a man. And obviously, so I'm still the president of that club, so I'm still interested. But as far as my flying goes, it's been pretty bad. I've been my weekends have been obviously with family and also riding the monkey bike, which takes up a lot of my time. Changing bits and pieces on the monkey bike to make it go faster. I got a 1.5% power increase the other day, which doesn't sound like much, but it is when you've only got 8 horsepower or something. So it's. But that's been taking my time and my interest. But in saying that, I've still kept my finger on the pulse in regards to the hobby industry. I've seen the new releases, and I've seen some of the version 1.1s that have been released, and we'll talk about that later. And so it's very interesting to see that the hobby and the industry is still going strong, considering what's happening globally with this crazy virus that's locked everyone down and made everyone not fly their airplanes.
Yeah.
But it's had an impact on everything, and I've noticed it. Like my club shut down. Yeah. Obviously in Australia here we can only have groups of meetings of 2 people, down to 2 people now. So that's you and yourself if you're that way inclined. Just so it's really put a stop on everything down under, which has been very interesting. We're all working from home. We're all locked in, like everyone is, I suppose. But this hobby is hopefully it'll spark my interest, and it has done. I've got back into it again in the last couple of days, just rebuilding little bits and pieces that I need to fix, and so hopefully I can get back behind the sticks and fly an airplane. It's been a while.
Well, it's interesting because I got out and I got my one flight, and of course those who know, I deal with being a type 1 diabetic, which if you read anything, they're just basically saying be nice, stay away, and that whole social distancing bit. So I haven't gone to the field, and like you, the rules are getting more and more aggressive. So I don't know when I'm going to get out again. So the only thing I'm thinking right now is I'm really happy I've got projects. I mean, I've been working on my biplane, the balsa biplane, and
yeah.
And just happy to have this kind of stuff to access. So it's been an interesting little change, and it's funny because we'll talk about the reviews and some of the releases, and what strikes me is they're all big planes, which would you think right now that everybody would be kind of going for something smaller, that way they could just do their little park dash, get your flight in, get out, so we'll see.
Let's look back at some of the releases, and we'll go back to the airline from Motion RC, which is a huge risk, but a big aeroplane and a fantastic looking design and flies really well. One of the guys had one at my club, and I saw it fly in person. It's a very impressive piece of kit. Expensive down here, like you're looking at $1,000 Australian, so which is around about $1.80 Canadian, and it's an expensive aeroplane to fly, but still and obviously we've got a grass strip, and it flew really well. I was surprised in its speed and maneuverability, and yeah, it was really, really nice to fly. And when I say surprised, I mean because aeroplanes generally that size with that setup have struggled in the past. Like when you look at the old A380 that Hobby King brought out from another supplier, which was like a four engine 50 mil thing that flew like horrendously underpowered, and so it's interesting to see these designs come through. So, but I really enjoyed that airplane to come out. I mean, we had one at Hobby King. We had an early model, which is a Dash 600, which is 1.8 meter wingspan, which is a twin 70, which we test flew. That was probably 6 months prior to my leaving Hobby King, and Ian and myself had that, and then we were the naysayers, knocked it on the head because it was too expensive. So it never came to market. But there was a picture of me holding it up, which Andre I've shown you before.
Yes, sir.
And the thing is massive, and it's really fat, and it's an old sort of, it's a different style where that is based off the Max. This was based off a Dash 600, so a smaller, fattier, squatter version of the 737. So that would have been interesting if we'd had a chance to bring that out. Interesting in two ways. Interesting to see if our quality or the quality assurance of Hobby King could have kept it up. And sorry, I just got to wave goodbye. So the quality of Hobby King could they have done it? That's another question as well. Would they have failed and dropped the ball? More than likely. Don't want to speak badly of Hobby King in the past, but that was always a thorn in their side. And it was all, it was hard. It was a really hard place to work in regards to that. But anyway, we're not going to touch on that sour point. We're going to go on. We're going to move on to the next stuff that's been released. I mean, E-flite's been going nuts with their jets. They're like crazy, and it's just been like from F-18s to SU-30s or 27s or whatever that is,
I have mine
down to the latest. Down to the latest one they just released, the twin 64mm 6S A10, because the world needs another A10. Like, what's happened there?
It's funny because
it's like the A10's become the new Spitfire.
Well, I didn't realize the darn thing was a 6S plane. I'm like, nice. I'm like, oh, who needs another 64 or 4S, right? But actually, I had a chat with a friend of the podcast, Pete, who's Horizon's drone videographer, right? And he says the thing is a hoot, and I believe it because it's just a little bit smaller, right? And it's I love my FMS one, but boy, does that thing soak up the airspace in an aggressive fashion, right? I mean, it's when I saw the video, when I saw the replay, I was like, wow, I'm going far.
Personally, I don't like the color scheme. I'm an 80s sort of guy, so I like the old retro, European camouflage one with the shark's mouth or the bull or the pig face on the front. I prefer the warthog. I prefer that than what I do the greys. But in saying that, I've seen it said that there's another A10. Do we need another A10? And it's like, sure, we need another. Like when Freewing Flightline brought out the new Corsair. And everyone said, oh, do we need another Corsair? It is the best Corsair foam model ever made. It's at the pinnacle. So to say, do we need another one? Then the answer would be yes, if they're going to get better. So there's no problem with having new or the same thing. Same with the Spitfires that came out. Like you remember the old Dynamo Spitfires, and they were a hunk of junk. And the old original FMS one, which was really old in technology and design. But later on, we had, like Flightline brought out the new 16mm Spitfire, and then Seagull brought out like a bigger version of a Balsa. I think it's 72-inch or something like that. And these designs got better and better as they went along. So the older ones, you could basically put them in a flea market and get rid of them, and then you have the new ones to fly. So you can let someone else fly those disasters, and you can fly a new one. So, and that's how it is. Like, and it's like an old car. Like you would have seen older cars being manufactured, and then you see a new car, like from Hyundai, for instance. And the Hyundai quality and technology now is better than a lot of other manufacturers. But before,
Yeah. You
They
didn't
should
want a
have stuck to
pony.
forklifts, man. Like seriously,
You didn't want to
they
drive
were
a pony.
terrible cars. So to say that we don't need a new one is like, we do, because we need to do these airplanes justice with the new technology and the new designs that become available. Then why not produce the new of the old stuff, if you know what I'm saying? So I'm happy to see designers, um, sort of re-engineer the old designs and make them better. But in saying that, it's always good to see a new model come out that's going to sort of shock the world.
Well,
And Flex Innovations just released that new Voodoo, or the F100, sorry, which is just like
and
beautiful. I
we
like it. It
talked
looks
about that
really
in the
good.
last show. That one caught us off, and it was really nice to see in the sense that we were saying that Flex hadn't released anything relatively new in the last little while, so it was kind of fun just to see them to come
And
out.
I would I be right? Would I be right to say that's their first military or scale aeroplane they've done?
Well,
I mean, I'm not scale. They've done the RV8 and that sort of stuff, but would this be their first military plane that they've done?
even
Flex
crazier.
Innovations.
It's even crazier. It's one of their first planes to actually have a real interesting paint job to it, right? So it's a change in pattern for them. I'm just calling it up here so we can have a look at it. And there
Sorry, guys, you have to meet
is.
Archie. He's gonna. You have to meet Archie because this is Archie the Wonder Dog. So he's my 5-month-old pup, and he's a little sook, and he is a terror,
Look at
but
that.
he's good fun.
Oh,
Yeah, he's good,
yeah.
but he's a big sook, so you can go down
Oh,
there.
there you go. So, I think you knocked your camera up, buddy. There you go. Yeah, the F100 caught us off guard. And I forgot to look at the poll. Actually, I should have. I didn't do my homework before the show. Um,
And we're back.
there you go. You're back. And I didn't look at the poll. I'm gonna have to check it out and see which one. If they're
The Thunderbirds one, I think,
the
just topped it.
Thunderbirds.
Just beat
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm not a fan of the Thunderbird scheme. It has its place, but I'm not a fan of the Thunderbird scheme at all. There's so many different schemes, and the Vietnam era is I love the Vietnam era. I love the music from the Vietnam era. So everything Vietnam is fantastic. So to have that aeroplane with that color scheme would be a camo version for me for sure.
It looks
And the same
good.
and the same with the Shooting Star, the T-33
Mm-hmm.
from Freewing.
Ocean.
Great design, that
Yeah.
aeroplane. Amazing design. It I've seen that fly as well. I've got the L-39, as you know, and I've had it up against the T-33, and I still prefer the L-39 in comparison, but it's a different era of jet, so you can't compare the two. But that color scheme on the camo one, the German one, is just I prefer that than the silver. I don't know. It just looks good, and that's just a personal preference, I suppose. But
Well, this is the fun part.
going
We're
back to
actually
the
seeing some really cool looking aircraft, and we're seeing some really neat variety already in 2020. It'll be interesting. Whether or not it holds out, whether or not manufacturers decide that they're going to hold back on the, kind of hold back a little tiny bit and wait and see how things go, who knows? Um,
as long as manufacturers and we'll get into this later, but as long as manufacturers, when they bring out a new version, they bring out a new version. They don't just bring out like one that's just half, sort of half baked. It's hard when you're a consumer now. I'm a consumer, so I get to say this. It's hard to see the hobby and companies still demand top quality, top price, sorry, for their quality for their product, and yet it's half baked. I struggle with that. I really, and it's always been something that we tried to work on when I was at Hobby King. Was if we bring out something new, there's a reason why it's new.
yeah.
The Bushmule was one that we were working on, and hopefully, if it gets released soon with the new colour scheme. If you went to Penrith Electric Model Aero Club, you would have seen this colour scheme get sneaked out there. Someone had a sample and was flying it, and it's the new colour scheme. I'm not even going to put it up because,
I don't
Penrith
have it,
Electric Model
so
Aero Club on Facebook. But so we did some changes on that aeroplane, which needed to be done because it had some slight issues. and some, and obviously feedback from the community and everything to get that done. But the power setup was done a bit better, and it was just, for instance, like we'll talk about the Tundra 1.1. Let's do it. Tundra. Should we do the? Oh,
The
sorry,
Tundra
version 2.
version
I call
two.
it the 1.1.
Oh yeah, hold on here. And Aviation Fun, we will get
Bring it
to your
up.
question very shortly. Hold on here. So, yes, I
Now let's answer his question first. Let's.
hold
What
on.
was the question?
Hold on. His question was simple. Does he think that the UMX Timber is would you recommend the UMX Timber as a third airplane? Oh God, that could be your first, your second, your third, your fourth.
Yeah.
That little gem of an airplane, and I'm going to.
All those little micros were amazing for what they were, like with their stability and gyros and everything on board. It's and there's one thing at Hobby King we did miss the boat when we had the micro Tundra, and we were going to release the micro Tundra. Oops. Um, but that aeroplane was to compete in that space with the UMX aeroplanes at the time, and we missed the boat. Similar to the Flying Wings, where we had opportunities to do it, but we got held back with different processes in the production. So yeah, the UMX stuff is like I've got the Spitfire and I've got the little MiG 15, and man, they're awesome. You can nearly indoor fly that MiG 15. It's and especially considering the climate, guys flying in their backyard or down the street or local parks, getting away from social distancing, you can go and fly your little Tundra, or sorry, your little Timber, and enjoy it. And
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely. So
Actually, Aviation Funds comes back. He actually just said he meant what would be a plane after this. Ooh, so it all depends on how you like your landings. Do you want a tail dragger or a tricycle gear? If you're looking for something a little bit more sporty, I mean, you can't go wrong with some of the classics. Either a good high wing or a T-28 kind of thing. You know, it all depends on what you're after.
yeah,
If you want to
I
practice those landings and grease those landings, you can't go wrong with a good T-28.
yeah, anything with a nose wheel works really well. It basically gives you that. Even the T-28 can be a bit of a drama because you have got the propeller which is close to the ground. So if you're going to fly in any rough sort of like thicker grass or anything, it's going to be a challenge to get off the ground. But you could always hand launch it, then land it on the wheels, I suppose. But yeah, it's for me to have an aeroplane. If I was to start, I would start with a big balsa model. My first aeroplane would be a big balsa model, and that's how I started. Like for instance, the Seagull make the Boomerang, which is an amazing trainer. It's you can set it up with a nose wheel or a tail dragger, and it is big. You can visually see it. You do need the space to fly it, but to have that aeroplane which would penetrate the air a lot better, visually you can see it. It has it's not as squirrely as the smaller planes, as that's a term that we use. So easier for you to fly. So I
Yeah.
would go with a bigger balsa plane before I would go with like a jet or something like that because
Oh no. So he's talking third airplane. So
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. I know,
reading
we
he
just went off
says I'm
track.
kind of
But
limited to UMX size. I live in a big city and I fly at parks. So you could get away, and this is like the aircraft we're starting to talk about now, the Tundra. You could get away with a decent high wing tail dragger in a park, because you're not going to be going
yeah,
Mach 2 or anything like that. You can work on your landings and stuff like this. So, and it's still you got the short takeoff and landings capabilities. So you honestly could progress from your Timber UMX very easily. So
yeah, you could, yeah, easily, definitely, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry,
So
we got a bit off. So let's go back to where we were
where
before
we
that.
were, we
So
were on this beastie that came out recently. So Hobby King re-released the Durafly Tundra version 2, and I immediately went, wow, okay, and dove into the specs, and I was kind of like, oh, this is not really like a version 2, and I made this statement very quickly in my social media. I'm like, sorry, you know what? It's a fantastic airplane, but it hasn't kept up with the times, has it?
No, well, we finished the version 2. or nearly had it done, and Ian finished it off when he was still at Hobby King. So you had changes, as in the what are they called on on the top of the wing? Can't think of what they're called now.
The vortex generators.
The vortex generators, sorry, and so that was done similar vein to the Grand Tundra, and we had some changes in the color scheme. We had some changes with the power setup. It was going to be able to be run on 4S straight out of the bat, and now I don't think that's happened. That propeller needs to be changed. That propeller is, although it's a carbon propeller, I always found it to be very weak and brittle. I always found it to be it doesn't supply the right amount of power that you need. You could easily put an APC style propeller on there and get better power out of that plane straight away, and you would get it instant, and you wouldn't have that much amp draw either. So the propeller was okay, but it was a little bit of a novelty more than anything, to be honest, with the carbon prop. So we were looking at that. I mean, like if you chuck on the same size prop in an APC, you'll get better performance out of the airplane without doing anything else. It's amazing the change you can get. And if you hit a little rock or hit anything with that propeller, it shatters. It breaks away the tips. So yeah, the carbon, it's a great idea. It look cool and everything else. And it was at the time, like you said, at the time when the Tundra's been out for 3 years.
4 years, I think.
3
or 4.
Something like that. So it's part of that. It's part of that. I mean, and we can't bag the Tundra. The Tundra is the best style aeroplane ever designed. It is the best. It is the market leader, and all the other competitors out there have tried to do the same and tried to compete in that space, like the Kingfisher and the Timber and all of those have tried to beat and be better than the Tundra, and they haven't done it yet. The only reason why they haven't done it, or the only reason why they have done it, I should say, is because of that time.
Yeah.
So when it was released, it was the best at the time. But now we've seen technologies expand and grow and different techniques. But the only reason why these other aeroplanes are better is because they've learnt off the Tundra. So the Tundra is and will always be Hobby King's best aeroplane, other than the Big Slot. But the Tundra itself, the color scheme, we were going to update the color scheme because that looked a little bit aged as well, and we there was a few other things in there that we were going to do. We did the wing connectors were one, so that was one thing that needs to be updated, and that was done earlier. That was done a while ago. So the only thing really new is the vortex generators, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really see that many changes. But there were a lot of changes done. Ian ticked off a lot of changes to get done after I left, and he was like, "Yeah, the new Tundra's going to come out." And I was like, "Cool, okay, new Tundra's going to come out." And we had some awesome color schemes. We trialed pinks and we trialed yellows and we trialed all these other cool colors. And there were some really, really cool color schemes to come out. And it's come out in I don't particularly. I'm not a fan of the color scheme.
Yeah. What was it? Well,
I don't.
The orange is nice. I don't care about the purple or the white and blue.
No, the purple was one of the lowest selling color schemes out of all of them. Yeah. The black and the grey and the orange was the number one after the green and the silver. Mm-hmm. So you had So I don't understand why they brought that. But anyway, it's not my problem. It's an awesome airplane. I'm sure that if it's priced right, it'll sell right in the community because it's got a name, the Tundra. So hopefully, I mean, like at the end of the day, hopefully Hobby King can get out of whatever they're doing at the moment and can resurface again and come out as they once were. It'd be great for the industry, great for them, and great for the hobby. Because at the end of the day, Hobby King brought everyone, they basically brought everyone, other companies, and made them honest in the hobby. And yeah, sure, they were seen as the big gorilla, and they came in and roughed everyone up, and they shut down hobby shops left, right, and centre, and everyone hated them. But at the end of the day, they brought heaps of people into the hobby. So hopefully, we'll get onto that later, but hopefully Hobby King can build themselves back up to where they were or something like that. I have no idea. I speak to Ian and Simon once in a while, and we sort of touch base and say good day, but we don't really talk about the hobby itself. We talk about our lives in general. So yeah, we still, so if there was a question there, we still keep in contact and we still chat. Which is good. which is good. You know, we formed those friendships and bonds and stuff like that over the years, and it's good that we still have them. So that God, we went from one to another, then didn't we? We went
Yeah,
from kind of like
you're all over the map
Tundra
on me, but
V1.
that's okay. So going,
Keep up,
I'll
Andre.
rein
Keep
you
up.
in, man.
Keep
I'll
up.
rein you in. So going back to the Tundra. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
The V1.1.
1.1, 1.3 quarters. That's what we called it when we were on social media. So what would you have done? Well, you said the 4S system. So and that was something that I jumped on right away. It's like, look, and even I swapped out my standard ESC for the reversing ESC, and unless the thing is on floats all the time, it is pointless. You need an extra channel on your radio. I mean, it's
Yeah,
kind of cool to back up and drive around.
but 4S is the new 3S.
Yes, very much so. And
Do
even
you know what I
six
mean? Like
and
guys that were
6S is only a
guys that
little
were
bit
flying.
behind.
Yeah, you know, like guys will get on there and say, oh, I've just got to. I'll use uh, the Texan from E-flite as an example. That thing flies perfect on 3S. Perfect on 3S. You put 4S in it, things like a Star Wars X-wing fighter. It's that fast. It looks ridiculous. It looks so out of scale. But
Yeah.
on 3S, it's perfect. But who flies it on 3S? No one.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen anyone fly it on 3S, and yet it is perfect on 3S. Um, Another aeroplane would be the Mule. Flies perfect all day on 3S, but guys chuck 4S in it and they want to fly it on 4S because it's got more power and they're Jeremy Clarkson in the air.
I
So
never
the
tried
Tundra,
mine on 3S actually. Interesting.
yeah, the Tundra, I've had a Tundra on 6S, a lot of fun, and 4S. You know, it was the first thing I did with every Tundra is, and guys at my club would be like, "What's that?" And I go, "It's just a stock Tundra. It's just a new one from Hobby King." And they were like, "Man, that thing's a beast." And it's like, "Yeah, it's on 4S." You're like, "Of course it's going to be a beast." So all these guys thought that I was flying on 3S and out climbing them. You know, like the climb rate was ridiculous, and I just put a 50 amp speed controller in it and threw it on 4S. It was just
Well, because the motor could
it,
take it. Did you down prop?
no, 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 just you know, and fly it like I stole it. Like it was, I flew the crap out of it. It was, and it could handle it.
And
So
sitting above me right now, man, is number one. The first one in that we brought
yeah,
into the North America. It is it's starting to show its age, but the biggest thing I learned right away was don't take the wings off. Put the wings on, leave them on. That's the first one.
is that still the same? Is that the same one that you did with Josh Bickler?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
flight? Yeah, wow,
Yeah.
cool.
And it's still surviving. The only change I made, I'm on to prop number 2. The first prop I chipped, but I was doing touch and goes off a cricket little strip, and I hit the end of it and shipped a prop, and it's sitting on the end of my bench as a trophy.
Yeah.
I'll have to try the APC at the same size just to see what it does. But I've got
Yeah,
some
you'll
fresh packs
definitely
for this
notice like it's uh, it'll instantly give it like it's like having a little bit of a nitrous to the to the plane. It instantly gives it more power and more. It just has a better. It bites the air better if that makes sense. Like the pitch is better than the carbon. I think it's the thickness of the propeller or the. It definitely has an impact and changes the way that it flies. So you'll notice it
Well,
for sure.
fascinating thing to know.
So let's
There we go.
let's go back to the version 1.1. We'll go back again. So we'll go back to. So yeah, that the changes that we had were obviously those vortex generators. We also had an idea to change and do a plug-in wing that would work with the existing plug-ins that are there, the plugs themselves, and to turn into a night flyer. So you would have to run a set of lights down the fuselage, and it will come as a kit. So you would have the wings as a plug-in, as an optional extra, plus the lights to go through the center. So we worked on that, but that hasn't worked because that plug won't support the lights to go through, because I had a look the other day. So I don't know what's happening with the night flyer. Maybe that's going to be a later, and I've spoiled it for Hobby King, but oh well. So that was one thing that we that we worked on was to turn the Tundra into a night flyer, because that would be a perfect night flying aeroplane. And another thing there, Hobby King missed the boat with the night flying there, because everyone started to bring out night flying aircraft after that. Like we had Flex Innovations with their big Cessna, and I think it was the Cessna had the night flying section,
Yep.
and the RV8 came as a night flyer, and we had a night flyer in other people's aircraft that we released as our own. And then we had the Walrus, which we had as a night flyer, which was very successful. And then I suppose E-flite would have brought out their night flying Radian,
Yep.
and
And the
so there's
Pawnee.
still, yeah, 100%. I think that there's, and that Pawnee at night when the whole thing lights up, man, that is the best night flying airplane I've ever seen. And we had an event for Hobby King in South Australia. So that's the southern part of Australia, one of the states down there. And we had guys with really bright torches shining on 100cc airplanes to fly them at night and all this other stuff. And then this little tiny, like this Pawnee come flying past. It was the best out of all of them to see,
Yeah.
to fly. It was like, wow. And I remember talking to Ian that time and just said, Ian, that's what we have to do to the Tundra. And he's just like, yeah, we do. That is awesome. And so we were working on that, but that obviously was supposed to come out in the version 2 or should have come out in the version 2. So that, a new colour scheme, some fixes to the landing gear. There are always issues with those little screws that went in. The wing bolts, I think that they've been fixed. I think they actually put brass rather than, so that's been
But
done.
that was on the
something
update that
we
was done
wanted to do.
previously, right? That was the revision, the previous revision to this.
Yes.
But
So basically, it's a version 1.2.
yep.
So yeah, but obviously that color scheme looked cool back in, like, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. Now that color scheme is looking dated. It needed a new something new done to it, the colors or even the design itself, to go away from that look. And unfortunately, I'm sure if the price is right, they're going to sell it, which is fine, because the Tundra came out of stock, came back into stock, went out of stock again. So if they've got a new one, they're going to have stock at the price right. They should sell them, and everything's going to be good, because the Tundra's got that positive name to it. And it's not a bad aeroplane. Let's not write this off as a crap aeroplane. That's one thing that I need to say. I'm not saying that don't buy this aeroplane, because it's, all I'm saying is the opportunity to have a new Tundra, or just to call it Tundra with an upgrade. It's basically a Tundra with an upgrade, but the Tundra is still a fantastic aeroplane. Still holds its own against its competitors. It still does everything you need it to do. It still comes with the floats in the box, which is something the other competitors sometimes they supply with them without. So they're an optional extra. So it still comes with a spare propeller. It still comes with, ball link controls. It still has, and that's another thing that we were going to upgrade was, it's still got the flaps that work perfectly. Those big, massive barn door flaps that just. So I mean, it is a. I wouldn't say it's your first airplane, but it's definitely a second, third airplane.
Yes.
And it's and you can say, and you can look up and see that one that you've had for years and still in decent flying condition, and yet it's been flown a lot. And I've been through. So, bit of a shame that they missed the boat. I think personally, they could have done more, but I think if you're going to bring out a version 2, bring out a version 2. Don't try and polish it to make it what it's not, and it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm going to point out too. You can get the ARF kit, which is kind of cool, nice. So if you've got a tired airframe, you can at least do a port over from your old airframe. Well, this is kind of a nice thing to have. So,
And that was the whole when we did those ARFs. I remember when they were released, and that was the whole idea of it, was that you had guys with tired airframes, and that needed to, it was a good opportunity to swap out your parts or make one that you wanted to. Like I did a 6S version of one. We never went to film, but we had it in the office flying around, and it was stupid fast. It was like ridiculous. It had like but you don't need that with a Tundra. Like you don't need 3S is perfect. You get a nice 2700 in there, fits perfect, flies for about 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If it was an E-flite plane, it could fly for 21 minutes. That was fantastic. I love that video. That still cracks me up. So they basically said, so we'll just jump over that. When they brought the Havoc out, do you remember that? And they said, this airplane, it's a 80 mil, 90 mil jet, whatever it was, the Havoc, 80 mil.
Okay,
and then they said, here we go, it flies for 21 minutes. And then everyone was like, it's an EDF. Like, we all know it's going to fly for 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. We all know but we know this is the technology at the time. And then they went and made a video to prove that they could fly for 21 minutes. So they just got it up to altitude and turned it off and just glided for 21 minutes. It was like, yeah, anyone can do that with an 8,000 milliamp battery. Like, come on, guys. You don't just pull back on it and say, look, it was 5 minutes. Because let's face it, after about 4 minutes of flying an EDF flat out, you've done everything you need to do.
Yeah,
You've gone and done every air show pass you wanted to do. You've it's time to land, and so you don't crash it, so you don't get fatigued. So
after 6 minutes, you're gonna put that thing into the deck because it's just gonna be, you're gonna do something ridiculous.
It's like when I saw that ad, I was straight away thinking about the 8-minute abs. Do you remember from Something About Mary? I think the movie is where he's like, I got the 7-minute abs, and the guy goes, no, I got the no, that's right. They advertised the 8-minute abs, and then he was like, no, man, I got the 7-minute abs. It's just. Oh, sorry, I just sidetracked massively, but I'll end up with the giggles now. But anyway, no, it's yeah, it was a very funny campaign they did, and I was kind of surprised that they just kept, it's 21 minutes, and everyone was like, we know it's not, like, stop, like. But anyway, let's move back to where we were. So what's next? After the Tundra?
What's next after the Tundra? Well, okay, so we're done with the Tundra. We've talked about a little bit about the Flex. We've discussed a little bit about the A10. What was really interesting, and I'm going to bring this up. I don't know if the audio is going to port through. Let's do this. We'll do this. I got this.
Bill Decker just said that the biplane conversion of the Grand Tundra that he saw it would have been at the last Hobby King event, which was a great friend of the club and one of our committee members, Daryl, who built that out of a couple of crashed Tundras, Grand Tundras, I should say. When Toby saw it, Toby said, because we always talked about building the double arm Tundra, that's what it's going to be called, and we thought, Toby saw it, and it always. We always said, let's build a biplane Tundra, let's do this. And he was like, nah. Then he saw it at PMAC and he was like, we need to build this. And I was like, yeah, we do. That was very, very funny.
So this one caught us off guard. Adam Drain dropped this on me the other day, and he says, did you know FMS is building a scaled, a 1/6 Jeep? So it's
you dropped it on me. You were like,
check this out.
And I'm thinking, like, Jeep? What?
Well, this is it. This is part of our strange, brave new world here. Is this going to work for me? Hold on, I'm going to have to refresh this thing. So this came out, and it's rather interesting. So it's a Willys, right? And click.
Yeah.
And so, woo, loud. That was loud. Okay. But 1/6 scale. So this is a big RC car. Apparently it's going to come out April 1st. World premiere from FMS. So we'll wait around and see, and just see what it comes out to. It looks great. 1/6 has got to be a 4S or 6S vehicle, I would assume. But the details look really nice. And look, you said
so is it kind of like is it like a rock crawler sort of setup, or is it with that?
I'm going to say possibly a rock crawler, but we don't know yet. But it's got the classic look, the green. It's got tons of detail on it from what I could tell from the video. I will put the link in the show notes for everybody to go see it on. It is on their Facebook page, FMS model on their Facebook page. That's the only spot I've been able to find any kind of details. So it is a rock hobby, which is kind of like, we're starting to see our big suppliers. We'll go back to Motion and we'll talk about them after. Everybody's kind of diversifying their portfolios, I'm going to say, and it makes sense because look at the situation we're in right now. The majority of us cannot go to our flying fields because we're all quarantined and everything, and or like your field, my field is shut down. Parks are going to be shut down and stuff like this. So who knows? So I've been in my yard, I saw this, and my trucks and everything.
You said to me the other day, like, FMS has got a Jeep, and I'm like, a what? What's that? What type of aeroplane's a Jeep? I'm like, So I just went and had a look, and there it was. And I was just like, I sent you a message straight back saying, "That's my new Follow Me car. I'm going to paint that up as a, it definitely is. So and just drive around in front of aeroplanes at the club. That'd be hilarious. It looks really, really cool.
It's
I'm
really sharp. I'm
yeah,
actually right now.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, really,
posting this to
really.
the RC After Hours Facebook page so everybody can see it. But who knows what it's going to cost? 1/6. I'm going to say it's going to be in the couple $100 range. But boy, does it look nice! And like I said, the truck hobbies has kind of surprised me over the last couple of years because it's one of those things that if anybody has a kid like I do who's very reluctant to fly, even when I put them on the sticks and everything and
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
rules, definitely going to be Martin thinks it's going to be a giant rock crawler. So who knows about the clearance?
Okay.
But it looks phenomenal. It looks great, and it's interesting to see the market change. So we'll see, buddy.
Yeah, like I was saying to you, like I haven't flown for a while, but some of the RC stuff I've done is like a V8 supercar, which is an Australian version of like a NASCAR sort of thing that they actually go around left and right corners. It and my son's got one of them, and we had one of them in the driveway, and then I'm building a Volkswagen Beetle, so that's just going to be it's to me a Beetle,
Mm-hmm.
um, just so I can just so I can have a bit of fun inside the house and go sliding around the floorboards, and and then obviously Mavic. I've been flying the Mavic a little bit, so it's
Yes.
and just so that's I go up and have a look around my neighbourhood and annoy my neighbours. And someone had a lost dog, so I went out with the Mavic and tried to find their lost dog, and we found it. So that was pretty cool.
There you
So
go.
the Mavic was used for um, and so yeah, but yeah, this Jeep very interesting in left field and surprised me, and I was just like, wow, that's pretty cool. Those scale sort of vehicles for years hadn't really sold well, I suppose you could say. Like when you have a look at scale compared to
Mm-hmm.
sports aircraft have always sold, tenfold or a lot more than a scale aeroplane. And then we'll flick onto Motion RC. They've just brought out some scale like boats and bits and pieces, which looks pretty cool. Like I just want to know if they're going to do a 1/200 scale hood, because that was, other than being blown up by the Bismarck, it was one of the best looking ships ever made. So a 1/200 scale hood, if you're listening, Alpha, get me one. I'll be your first customer. Um, but the Missouri and I think there was a few others that they brought out in regards to the Bismarck. I saw that one as well, and
Yep.
that was something that when we were looking at building a hovercraft, Ian said like we need to do, some of the guys were like we need to do a sport chassis and like a cover, and Ian and myself were like, nah, we need to do like one of those big funky Russian hovercrafts, those big massive things, and as a scale and yeah, it was always we'll go with the sports, and I think they eventually brought out a scale sort of thing, but it floundered. I don't think it floated as well as what they thought. But these things look pretty cool. I mean, I don't know what they're priced at. I haven't even had a look yet.
Well,
But
right
it's
now I've got up on the screen. We've got, and I'll throw the links in the show links so you can go look. But here's a 1/16 scale landing craft. This thing is huge, but they've got a tank.
oh yeah,
So you go get your 1/16 scale. You go drive around, and just the hobby can be anything you want, eh? Look at that. That's
yeah.
just.
Well, that is pretty cool.
And we had Alpha
That's
on the previous podcast, and apparently, he was saying he'd been a boat guy for the longest time. Uh, Bill Decker
yeah.
says Titanic for sure. We'll make it. We'll do a scaled iceberg as well. Great.
Well,
But
I don't think cruise ships will be very popular this time
ooh,
in this current
no,
climate.
no.
No,
But there's your
no.
Bismarck. So 1/200 scale on the big battleships. Yeah, the Missouri. So
Okay.
they all seem to be off. They got the PT. So they got a patrol boat, which is 1,000 millimeters. So that's a 1/24 scale. So that's pretty cool. Your little your island Coast Guard ship. So a bunch of variety of it. So boats are fun.
Yeah,
Boats are fun if you've got the right spot to do them and move around and everything. $640
yeah, yeah.
for that boy. $39. Sorry.
Mhm.
Wow.
So
that's pretty damn cool, actually.
yeah, that's But I suppose US dollars, Australian dollars, it's going to knock a lot of people out of the market in regards to cost there because in Australia the Australian dollar is very weak at the moment,
Oh yeah, same
and
with the Canadian dollar.
so
And then
yeah,
import.
yeah. But I mean but that's I mean if you want something that's going to work and function well, then you have to pay for it. That's how it is. It's like you buy a new rifle, you have to pay good money if you want to go and shoot something straight. That's how it is. But that's the same. It's like, and I'll go back to the monkey bike. Like the monkey bike in Australia is $6,600, which is very comparable to Canadian money at the moment, which is expensive for a 125cc toy. Like it's a toy. The only time you ride it is if you want to look like a clown. Like it's the only time. It's fun. It puts a smile on your face. But in comparison to other bikes in its class, they're around about half the price. They do exactly the same function. They do exactly the same thing. They got exactly the same features, but they're not as cool as the monkey bike. So you're going to pay that premium price, I suppose. And that's like the HMS hood when they bring it out, because they will now that I've said, we need a HMS hood. So, I mean, that we all know the Missouri's nice. It looks good. They signed the end of the war on the back of that thing. So, I mean, it's got some history there, but it's not the hood. Where's my hood? And an aircraft carrier. How come they haven't brought out an aircraft carrier?
Why? An aircraft carrier would almost be easy to do, right? Because it's just going to be a plank top and everything. But I guess you'd need all the maneuvering thrusters. Yeah.
Yeah, but you think there'd be a transition there for airplane guys to go to aircraft carriers? Like something like the USS Hornet with all the B-25s on it, going to go back and, like get their revenge on Tokyo. Awesome. Let's do that. Come on. Where's
your aircraft carrier?
Where's my...
Oh, that
yeah,
would
that's
be
it.
fun. That would be fun. That would be fun.
But I mean, it's all, depending upon how popular these are, then how popular they, then that category will only expand. So we have to support it. So guys, buy your Bismarck and buy your Missouri, so then I can have my hood.
There you go.
Sounds like
it's and this is stuff that Alpha said. Like they were finding their products and everything, and then they let the market. They kind of they'll put out put a toe in the water, dip a toe in the water, and just kind of and
you have to.
Delta Dark just said Nimitz. The Nimitz is coming. Oh dear. Oh dear. And I guess they're gauging their market share. And if
what was that movie where the Nimitz went back in time? Was it the Nimitz that went back in time?
The Final Countdown.
And and then they had like the Zeros against the Tomcats. What a great movie that is!
That was
fantastic.
So awesome.
Yeah,
that was the best.
Yeah, it was so 80s too, when the whole lightning bolts and stuff, and the ships just floating through.
Everybody on
I might go watch that now.
Oh yeah, there you go. Good thing to watch while we're all stuck at home, right? Come on, Netflix.
Yeah, I've got. Yeah, that's one thing. That's one complaint. I'm going to make it to Netflix if you're listening. Is the war movies? There's not enough war movies on Netflix. There's too much political correctness. There's not enough war movies. There's enough death. Come on, we need to watch some of these war movies.
They need to be rolling out some content. Because it's like you sit there and I've stopped. I've given up. Today, the best thing I got today was one of my friends. He came back. He says, Andre, I'm jealous of your DVD and Blu-ray collection because, like everybody's saying their bandwidth is struggling and everything. And I'm there and I just drop a movie into the player and go, right? So it's like, yeah.
Yeah. But I've moved about 38 times. Sorry, so I've moved about, 5 times in the last 5 minutes. And so all my stuff's in boxes and everything, and I'm like, where's that box with the DVDs in it? It's got to be here somewhere, because you just don't use it. But it's just like, no, I need to find some of those old movies that just aren't available anymore. I watched Blazing Saddles.
Oh no.
One of the dumbest, funniest movies I've ever seen, and I hadn't seen it for years, and I thought I'm just going to watch it and just relive the good times. And when I watched it, I was like, you realise how much they're actually teasing the white man rather than the other way around, and everyone thinks it's this like racist movie, but it's not. It is actually hilarious. It is so funny. So everyone go back and watch Blazing Saddles again, and I guarantee that you will find it funnier than what you ever did. It is considering that we're not allowed to say those jokes anymore, and a
That's
lot of the
true.
stuff we talk about we just don't say anymore. But now, like it's you're by yourself, self distance and self isolate, and go and watch Blazing Saddles. Hilarious.
There you go. All right. So on the hobby
But it's,
on the hobby end of it, everybody's commenting on the whole Blazing Saddle bit now. So on the hobby end of it, so we know you've got quite the extensive aircraft. We know you've been selling off stuff little by little last time you were on. So
yeah,
do you have any kits that you and your dad are working on right now?
yeah. I've still got the Tiger Moth, which has been in. So I've got a 2 meter Tiger Moth. It was originally made by Green's Models, and the whole thing's been rebuilt. That's been sort of on my dad's workbench for possibly 2 years, and we're nearly finished doing that. But now that this whole thing's coming, I can't see my mum and dad at all because mum's got heart and lung conditions, so I
Yep.
can't go and risk it. And plus, Bron, my partner, she's um, actually runs the ward at a local hospital, and it's the coronavirus ward. So so I'm at high risk of getting this crazy virus. So I've distanced myself from my mum and dad, which is, a bit of a shame because, it's family and you want to see them, but unfortunately that's just the virus. That's how it is. So let's move on from that.
Yep.
So yeah, but in the garage I've got two Freewing Skyhawks. I've got a Avanti which I'm rebuilding. God, I don't like the color scheme. That the dark color scheme needs to be something cool. So we're doing that, and that'll be featured later on. It's pretty cool. So the two, I've got a Freewing 90mm Venom, the 80mm MiG 21, which is getting rebuilt and repainted. I've got an Avios Spitfire which I'm rebuilding and fixing.
There's there's
I've
one I
got a
never got
MiG
my
7.
hands on. I need to get that plane.
What can I say about that plane? It's over-engineered. There's too much going on. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need all these features. Just make an aeroplane. Like I've got both the Freewing and the Avios 1600 and 1450 comparably next to each other, and I've said this before that the Avios one, the scale is probably better, but the 1600mm Freewing one flies better if you want to just get one out of the box and go and fly it. So there's too much intricate little bits and pieces you have to get right on the Avios one, which is actually a bit of a pain. Like it's all nice to have the hidden control surfaces, and it's all nice to have a cockpit that slides back and opens, but don't really need it. Like I'd rather have a pilot in there.
Weight?
Yeah, it's not more weight because it's only really light plastic. But the plastic over time can become fragile when it's moved backwards and forwards. It's just an ABS plastic. But the scale details and the little bits and pieces on the Avios stuff are fantastic. And, Tom Hunt and Stu back in the day did a top job to design that aeroplane to bring it out. And then we had the delays and everything else. And then you had QC issues later on, which really affected its performance, which is a shame because it's, for its design, like that thing straight out of the box, that aeroplane, the wing and everything is just amazing how it flies. It flies so well when it flies. It is just beautiful. It actually, for a Spitfire, tragic when you see that aeroplane fly around. I remember the first time I saw Stuart fly it was with the original white one, excuse me, without the paint. And when it flew, you had like shivers because it was like a Spitfire. The scale representation of the aeroplane was like spot on. And but then you see the Freewing one fly, and you see it, the big Hangar 9, 78 inch or whatever it was, the big one they brought out. It might miss a few scale bits and pieces here, but once it's in the air and flying and it's 100 feet away and it's doing 80 miles an hour, it's perfect. It's just, so yeah, the Avios one, so that's getting worked on as well. I've got a 2-meter Decathlon, which is getting built, and a 1.7-meter Hangar 9 P-47, which is just there.
Nice.
Which is, so they're the ones that are currently working on. There's probably around about another 20 that are in different stages because I kind of went a little bit nuts at one stage. So I know I've got like a Black Horse High and Cool I know I've got no FMS Zero, which I was rebuilding and having fun with. Um, oh, I don't know. The list is massive, but and I went through that whole jet phase. So I had, I went, like so the Avios MiG 17,
Yep.
the MiG 21,
Yep.
the Skyhawks, which I'm going to paint one up Australia and one New Zealand because I can. Thanks, Kelly Graphics, did a great job with the stickers. Amazing
Hey,
job
how
there.
much was the shipping from
And
her?
I can't remember actually, but it wasn't too bad. I mean,
Nice.
it's reasonably for the set of decals and everything else. I mean, it's if you want, like, and we spoke about this before, if you want the good quality stuff, you got to pay that premium price. And I don't mind paying that little bit extra for a model. I don't care. It's no, what else is there? The T28, the big 2 meter T28 is
Mm-hmm.
getting that's next on the list to get pulled apart and get fixed and get sorted. Um, what have I sold recently? God, Avios Albatross. Um, yeah, it's one of those things. I don't. You just sometimes you just need to let things go.
Well, it's funny because
Um,
I'm at that point now where it's like, after I brought home the Waco, my wife was like, okay, for every new airplane that comes in, you got to get rid of two or three. So I'm like, I'm on the edge of almost buying something with a gas engine in it. So I'm like, ooh, I got to get rid of a couple of
yeah,
airplanes.
yeah. So yeah, and then a 78-inch Mustang sold that. 72-inch P40 sold that.
Hmm.
Um, I've got probably another 20 which I need to sell, and they're just the tip. I've probably sold a few more over that, but I just don't remember which ones. Um, Dad's probably got them listed at the moment. They're all stacked up in my dad's garage and second room, and he loves it. He thinks it's amazing. Not, but obviously I can't go and see him now, so he's probably just going to sell them. So look out eBay. They're probably on eBay under Barry. So just be a yeah, Dad, if you're listening, don't sell them.
Don't sell
They're
'em.
not yours.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Um, so then here's a really interesting. Now, okay, obviously we can't fly right now, but have you've listed off a whole variety, and you've talked about going through these phases where you were hot into your jets, and I'm the same deal. I was like last year, I was finally just
Yeah.
making progress on those jets, and then my fall fell apart. Um, do you find yourself going back to more simpler planes, lighter weight, no crazy retracts, no crazy features, then they just work so you can get out, fly, and enjoy the experience versus chasing the mechanicals?
Yes and no. um, I ended up with a top model or top RC model. It's like a low wing trainer thing, and I that was the last thing I flew, and loved it. It was a cool plane, which is just a little foamy, and had a lot of fun with it just to fly it. I did put a reversing ESC in it because I did want to reverse when I landed because it was fun. But yeah, I generally I think having the exposure to a lot of like big stuff over the years and to fly some of that big stuff, I'm still there. Like I still prefer to have like a 2 meter balsa plane rather than a smaller. But then you've got to cart it around, and you've got to you have bigger batteries, and you've got to and the cost of everything. It's as a consumer now, the cost of everything goes up, and you've got to pay for batteries. And I didn't know batteries were so expensive.
Oh,
I
don't
went to
start.
buy a couple the other day, and I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah,
What? I'm gonna. So I'm
yeah.
like, if anyone wants to sponsor me some batteries, that'd be great. But but then I answer your question. I'm
No,
happy to fly. Sorry, no,
you
no.
didn't
But to
answer my
answer your
question.
question, when it comes to is I'd fly anything at all. And as an aeroplane and as an aeroplane enthusiast, it doesn't matter. And I think this goes back to being a child. It doesn't matter if a Cessna flies over or a fighter jet, an F-18 flies over. I'm still interested. I still look up. I still look at it. So as far as airplanes, as far as aircraft, if anything at all that flies, I'm happy to fly it. RC wise, I don't care if it's a indoor tiny little thing with a rubber band. still happy to throw it around. Or if it's a, a 2.5 meter, you know, 200cc aeroplane, who cares? It's everything in between. And I still enjoy when I go to the field. I might not go to my club and fly. I'll go there and talk, and because it used to be that social outlet for me. I would go and talk, and we would go and hang out, and I would look at other, people fly their aircraft, or I might give them a hand to set it up, and that would be more of an interest for me than flying aircraft. So to say that I've exited the hobby a little bit isn't true, because I'm still there doing stuff, but it's just not the same capacity. But I'm still enjoying it. I still get to see these new aircraft flying around. I still think, yeah, I'm going to get one of them. So
it's interesting, and I can echo the statement on that, because I go in flying waves where it's just it's like, okay, let's go. And someone was accusing me the other day of not being as passionate about flying, and so I'm just as passionate, but I'm also realizing some days where Andre needs to sleep in, Andre needs to recover from the week he's had, kind of thing, right? It's not that I don't want to do stuff, it's just I'm super aware of what I need to do to make sure I survive for the next day. And I'm still passionate. I still, I get a ton of stuff. I mean, I bought a Sukhoi the jet that I knew I wasn't going to fly in the fall or winter, because, we're snow for 6 months. So that'll be coming out as soon as we're allowed to go out.
I saw that one of the guys at my club, Dirk, top bloke, he was flying the SU-30 the other week, and I heard that he, I didn't see it, but he told me all about it, that he was a bit nose heavy on takeoff. He had the battery a bit too far forward.
Oh, yeah?
Just made the boundary fence. Just got the wheels up in time. Flew a few circuits with a nose heavy plane, and then come into land, and the gear didn't come down. So the gear malfunctioned, so he had to belly land on his first landing. And then when he got the aeroplane off the ground, he flicked the switch, the undercarriage came down. He was like, really?
But
so a little bit of damage in the second flight.
It's got the plastic under tray, though, so it's not too bad, but yeah.
Yeah, it's I think his pride was scraped more than the aeroplane, but that's okay. It's he's a good flyer, and then for that to happen is very disappointing. So then he went on to fly another plane, and I think he was successful with that one. But I know the SU-30, he said it was a little bit underpowered for a big plane to what it is, but I think that's just the nature of the beast when you've got an airplane that size.
No flaps.
You need to. Yeah, but you need to understand that it's got, and we fly off grass as well, so you've got to try and break that friction to take off. Yeah. So, but it's like a big airplane. Like you need to fly it, and you have to use its energy to get speed, and you have to understand that it's going to wipe off a lot of speed when you cut power and that sort of stuff. So, it's probably not your first EDF. It's probably your fourth or fifth or eighth. So, yeah. Definitely, fly an Avanti or an FMS Avanti or something like that, and then just get your thumbs in, and then, understand that you need to use the power and you need to use the weight in favour of flying it. So you just need to, watch that one, Andre, when you fly.
Well, I can tell you, the Flex, that jet is the same way, where it's such a delayed takeoff, and even the A10 can be a little bit like that too. And so you're kind of like, come on, and so every time I take off, I'm backing up another 6 feet just to give the aircraft a little bit. But and then you got to know when you're coming in for landing, you can't. Yeah, there's certain. And let's see. So this year, I've got to fly the A10 again after I got to fix the landing gear. I need to fly. I want to fly my FlexJet a little bit more, because I want to change the programming up and get into that a little bit more fun stuff. And I've got better batteries this year too, with a little bit more power. There is the 626. There's also the Hawk, and then I've got the Havoc.
Is that the Dynam?
The Dynam,
the Dynam 262?
Yes. So the Dynam, so that's got the really nice wing. I've told Alpha told me the difference between that one and the free wing is the wing is a lot more glidey. So, and it's only a 4S ship anyhow. So it's we'll see how that goes. I just got a bunch of jets.
I've seen the obviously seen them both fly, and I've flown the free wing one, but the I think the obviously there's a thicker chord wing and that sort of stuff, so It's a bit smoother,
Mm-hmm.
the Dynam one. But I've also seen it upgraded to 6S, and that's pretty cool.
That would
But the
go.
Freemium one looks better. The scale representation of the Freemium one just looks a lot better, except for the cockpit. That pilot looks a bit goofy, but the yeah, it does. It looks weird. It's I don't know. He's got like three-quarter arms and
Yeah.
just looks odd.
Pilots are tough.
Yeah, but yeah, pilots are, and that it's surprising. Like when we were trying to get a pilot for, I remember this is a funny story. We were trying to get a pilot for the extra 330, the
Oh, okay.
Avios extra
Yep.
330 that we brought out with the RC grips color scheme,
Yes.
and we tried to get a pilot to match, and it went backwards and forwards to the factory, and the factory made the mistake of putting that pilot in and basically saying, and it was typical of the time, good enough. The pilot's good enough. And I said to him, no, that pilot's too small. And he said, oh, next time we fix it. And I was like, no, we have to fix it now. And then he said, no, I've already made 100. And I was like, what? So then I got teased to no end about that pilot from the boys in the office. It was hilarious because he was way too small. He was tiny. And we called him because he was purple as well. So Ian called him the purple profit eater. So he was basically going to steal all the profit. None of the planes were going to get sold because he was the purple profit eater. And he ended up being in the same pilot was used in the Slowpoke. So it's the
Okay.
same pilot. And he
Okay.
just completely wrong scale for the extra. Like an extra, when you sit in an extra, it should be just shoulders and head,
Yeah.
similar to the Flex Innovations RV8. Like it should be full cockpit. It's the whole head because you sit right in there. But here he is, proud, and we even
Sticking
tried
out.
to get the cockpit painted black from internally paint because it's the canopy is actually sealed in the mold of the battery hatch, so you can't open it up at all. So the only way to get to it was to cut it, and we tried to cut a hole and paint and spray paint inside and it wouldn't work. And so the purple profit eater was released. And I remember when I went into Toby's office and I said, "This is what's happened." He's like, "How?" And I'm like, "China." And he went, "Jesus." So we ended up with the purple profit eater and the extras. So
Oh, he did look a lot better in the
that's the
the slowpoke though.
yes. So that was that. Yeah, very very funny. The purple profit eater. uh, okay, so where were we? Jets. We
Jets.
went from there. You took Flex Innovations, energy, speed, all that
Mm-hmm.
sort of stuff.
All that
It's
stuff.
yeah, my next jet to fly again is the MiG 21. I had a MiG 21. I flew it into a fence. I didn't have the MiG 21 anymore after that. I then went and bought myself another MiG 21. Now that aeroplane, for its size, when I first saw it, I was like, I can't believe for one this is 80 mil. Thought it was going to be underpowered. Thought it was going to be this and that. But obviously the power was one thing, but then time, battery, for your flight time, I thought you're going to get like 2.5 minutes out of this thing. But since then, I've seen other guys fly it, and so then I've decided, I've got one in the box, and I'm like, I'm going to go and get another one, and I'm going to put it together, and I'm going to paint it up in that, old school silver Russian, dirty, you know, sort of 70s look, and fly my MiG 21 again. So that's the next jet I'm going to fly is the MiG 21.
Who makes that one?
Freewing.
Oh yes.
The
Okay.
Freewing MiG 21. It's been out on the that
Yeah.
I just like that.
That
I'm
look.
old school. As soon as they released the T-33, I was like, that's a cool looking plane.
Yeah.
It's great design, looks really cool. It has that straight wing. I'm a sucker for a straight wing. But that old, the Cold War era jets like the F-100, the old MiG, the English Electric Lightning. Alpha, if you're listening, do a Lightning. I know it's difficult, but you can do it. I've seen the plans. You can do it. Do you want the plans? Do you want them? Do you need them? Do a Lightning. The Lightning is like a beast of an aeroplane. The undercarriage on the Lightning is a massive issue with RC planes because you've got these skinny little wheels that fold into the wings and then the two engines that mount on top of each other. And how do you do it with a single engine that's not wide enough? But you can do it. If you can do the MiG 21, you can do the I remember we tested some aeroplanes. Here's one for you, Andre. You probably don't know. We tested a MiG-25 back in the day. It was a
Ooh.
single 90, yeah, single 90 MiG-25. It
Nice.
was roughly, well, it was massive. It was about 1.3 meters long. It was huge. It was a big aeroplane, and I test flew it as the CNC prototype, but it flew really well, flew okay, and then for some reason it didn't fly okay, and it basically we found out later on through watching some video analysis was and air crash investigations, we found out that the aeroplane had a lot of front or forward, like sort of frontal area with those big two air inlets, and
Yep.
also fused and the air inlet. There's a lot of frontal area there. So when you decided to come off power, it stopped flying. It just stopped. It just stopped in the air. So you needed to fly the thing like a rocket. You couldn't back off the power at all. As soon as you backed off the power, and I think I come into a turn,
And just
and I
nosed it
either
in. Yeah.
yeah, I come into a turn, and then I think I was on my landing approach or something from a turn or a practice landing or something like that, and I've kept the same amount of throttle but lowered the gear. So the added drag of the gear and me not increasing the throttle, even though the airplane was straight,
Yeah.
just stopped the airplane in flight.
Yeah.
Basically, seriously nosed up the airplane and just went straight to the ground and tip stalled and crashed. And that was the end of the MiG 25. We pulled the pin on it after that. But what an awesome airplane that MiG 25 is just such a cool looking jet.
Yeah.
It is just it is everything about the Soviet era of jets is just mean. It's tough. It's got those two massive exhausts at the back. It just looks so cool. And
Yeah.
when I first saw it, I was like, "This thing is going to be, like it's sort of like the the dihedral on the wing and everything else. It just, yeah, absolute one of the coolest looking jets ever made. That or the Tornado. If you can do a
Mm.
Tornado, that's another cool jet. But no, but my preferences would be an early model jet, definitely. Like the MiG 17 was one of my favorite
Yeah.
aeroplanes, and that's a cool looking jet. But the straight wing jets, like the original Fury from North America, so the Fury FJ1, it was a derivative of the Sabre later on, but it had a straight wing fuel tanks, similar to a T-33 look, I
Yep.
suppose,
Yep.
but just chunky, fat looking aeroplane. That's one of my favorites.
Well, I'm right there with you
And
because the classics. It's funny. We're saying classics, right? But um, they just they look nice. Everything these days, all the modern jets are what they are, like just lethal killing machines, right? They're stealthy, they're slick and everything,
yeah,
but they're boring to look at.
but they're all yeah, exactly. But in saying that, like the F-35, um, I was never a fan of the F-35 when I first saw it. Australia's got them now in service, and I've seen them fly a couple of times, and they're still boring. But then I saw the F-35C. So the F-35C is obviously the uh, the Marines or the to take over from the Super Hornets,
Yep.
and it's got beefier landing gear. It's got a bigger wingspan. It actually looks like a bigger aeroplane all around. It so the A model is the fighter, the B model is the
The
VTOL
carrier.
version, and then the C model is the one with the carrier. So it's got the beefier undercarriage and everything else. It just looks cool when it flies. And now that's one aeroplane which I think is a that needs to be made. I know we've had an F-35 and Freewing did that one just recently,
Yeah, but that was
but the
small.
C
Yeah.
model
Yeah.
was a 70 mil, still flew really well. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen one
Mm-hmm.
of them at the club, but the yeah, but back to the older planes, like there's definitely enough. I think there's a market for the Hawker Hunter that needs to be done. That aeroplane is just 90 millimeter. There's enough air going in and out. You've got heaps of room for the battery landing gear. It's just one of those airplanes that can be done similar to the Sabre. It just needs to be done, and it was done years ago by Flyfly, but it was the old sort of EPS foam and very brittle and old design and disaster when you sort of land because the undercarriage would come straight through the wing, and it was just
That sounds like most of my
yeah.
dynos.
Oh, don't even get me started on Dynam. Don't even go there. I've got the Dynam 110 and the Messerschmitt 110, the BF 110.
Yes.
So the uh man, I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking, but whoever designed that just, yeah, I don't think they designed another airplane again. I don't think they're allowed to. They were told not to. No, that is terrible. But anyway, that's a cool looking airplane. Like it should be a cool looking airplane, but it's just disaster. Um, so yeah, those early jets are where it's at. Like the Gloucester Meteor, Dynam did a Gloucester Meteor, and I still want one of them. And I
Yeah.
still want to get one. I still want to get it because that shape just. I think Pilot Ryan did one just recently. He flew it around, and so did Robert over in Slovenia. And it flew really well, but you need to upgrade everything in it. And I wish they would just build an ARF so we can just plug our own
Slap
stuff
our
in.
own.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So Dynam, if you're listening, just build ARFs. Done.
Don't play around anymore.
It's
No.
not that hard.
The guys
But
are
man,
the guys in the chat are asking you what you think of some of the Hangar 9 stuff. Because recently they just released that huge Cub FX3. That thing is a monster.
Hangar 9 stuff is pretty cool. Like I've got some of the Hangar 9. Like I'd have 4 or 5 Hangar 9 planes back in the day. I've still got them. Like for instance, the 109, the Thunderbolt, which I've got just there, and I've got a big Timber, the 110 inch, somewhere. It's somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's in a box. And I've had the old Thunderbolt and I've had the new Thunderbolt, and the quality of the old Thunderbolt was better, as in heavier material. They've made the airframe a lot lighter, which is good for an electric setup because that's what I'm going to use.
Mm-hmm.
But for gas motors, where you've got, and we spoke on this before, I think I touched on it before, I wouldn't put a gas motor in it because it'd shake it to bits. That's just it needs to be a bigger, tougher, airframe, I think, anyway. And you want to have that extra weight, I think, anyway. But anyway, that's for an electric version, this airplane's going to be fine. But no, the Hangar 9 stuff is definitely, it's good quality kit. Like I remember that, the Fokker D7 they produced, and if it wasn't $1,500 Australian, I'd buy one. I think that thing is amazing. It looks really well, flies really well. The guys in the video with 3D flying and all sorts of stuff in it, and there's a really cool looking airplane, and underrepresented is World War One. So it but so the Hangar 9 stuff is, the older stuff, you can get your hands on it. Like I've got the old 109, the G6, and it's a beautiful looking airplane. It looks really, so, but it's I'd say for balsa kits, you can't go past the likes of Seagull, VQ models. They have some hit and misses there. Some of their stuff's good, some of their stuff is a little bit not as good. And then you've got Hangar 9, which I think would have to be the benchmark for balsa stuff. Black Horse, I've got a fair few Black Horse kits, and they're also good quality, but they're heavy. They are heavy airframes. Not that that's a problem if you're flying with a big powerful gas motor.
Well, that's it, right?
You'd struggle with electric setups.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean electric setups. You're looking at like a 2-meter airplane. You're running 10S and that sort of stuff. So it's it becomes expensive. But yeah. But no, that Thunderbolt, from all reports, is nice and light and flies really, really well. So I can't wait to get it done. I'm just going to, put a Power 60 in it and fly it around. Hopefully it flies well. So that's my view of Hangar 9.
Cool. I'll echo the statement on the scale. It seems like anything under a quarter scale is almost the electric power systems have come on so well that why would the gas, and this was the conversation I actually had with Ali about it when I was asking, because I was like, "Ooh, I'm looking at like the 1/5 scale Cub,"
Yeah.
and he's like, "That plane is beautiful on 6S power system. Don't even touch a gas motor because you just don't get the you're overweighting it, putting a big piece of cast iron on the front of it, right? Versus a battery setup." So I'm like, okay, cool. But you got to be able, like you said, you got to be able to fit this stuff in your car. The
best thing about electric, and we all know this, is, and I'm the president of an electric flying club, so I'm not biased. Not going to say this in any way, but the cleanup,
Yes.
the ease of plugging an airplane in to get it to fly, rather than tuning an airplane every time you fly it and to make sure it's not going to stall in the air and run out of whatever and die. It's so easy, but then also with that comes complacency as well. We tend to underlook all of the bits and pieces to make the airframe. Like we don't tighten nuts and bolts as well as we should. We just plug them in and fly away, and it's simple and easy, and it
right?
can. No, and it's simple. Like I did it once. I had a plane with and I think I had two servos on the elevator, and I just used to plug it in and fly away. And one of the horns just come out with the epoxy, just fell out. So I'm flying this thing, and it kept like rolling around the sky, and I was like, "What's wrong with this plane?" And then when I landed, I was like, "Oh, oops."
There's your problem.
Yeah, it just. But if I was to fly a gas plane, I would check every nut and bolt before I flew it. I would make sure everything was tight because I know it's going to vibrate, and I know that it's going to have issues with, basically I'll go back to just vibration, and it's going to have issues with other bits and pieces. So you need to make sure, like when you ride a bike or drive a car, you need to be mechanically sound, check your bits and pieces before you drive it, because if you don't, it ends in a disaster. But for some reason with electric planes, we miss that. Sometimes we miss that key component. So I don't know. Don't even know where I was going with that. Where did I end up? Jesus. We need an agenda.
we had it, but it was a very short agenda. So, no, it's it's been an interesting little step into the the inner workings of Steve's mind.
You don't want to go there. It's not enough time.
Bill Decker says, "Go big and buy a wagon or a van." So I'm gonna seriously look at a hatchback in the next car, because if as I progress through the hobby. And it's funny because you talk about the gas thing, and I haven't done my old SIG airplane and everything, and I'm very, very, very much looking at my next one. Well, at this point, it's going to be like 2021 by the time I actually get to a gas airplane. So, because this year, I'm going to say that first half is going to be completely written off, and then we'll just be kind of easing our way back into a lot of things that we love to do and everything as everything gets sorted out. But it'll come, because everybody has to try those journeys. Everybody has to experience those things so they know, and that's I think that's the biggest thing I've learned over the last couple of years as I fly and I try different aircraft. You gotta try it, We can go on and on and on and on, but
But I think going back to the gas electric thing, when you say some airframes don't need it, but sometimes they just need it for the sound. And sometimes they need it because you need to have that combustion engine, because we're men and we like to build stuff that makes fire and gas and explosions and smoke. So you do need to have that now and again. So you do need, there'd be nothing better if we all had our way. We'd all have turbines and big 5-cylinder makey planes, and we'd be flying around the sky like we were air aces, and we'd be having heaps of fun. But our budgets sometimes
yes,
don't allow us to. So if it was a free world and we could do whatever we want, I would have turbines. I would have, 5-cylinder makeys. I would have 4-cylinder Spitfires. But it's, well, I've got one of them. It's only a little, but it's there at the moment. But given the choice, that's what you'd have. But unfortunately for my budget and for my back pocket, I've stuck with building electric stuff because it just makes sense for me at the moment. So but in saying that, there's nothing like starting a gas engine and hearing it run and the noise, and like my monkey bike, and I'll go back to the monkey bike. It's got a stupid loud exhaust on it. It's 1-cylinder and it makes more noise than a Harley nearly. So it's hilarious, but it's the tiniest little thing. So, but it's loud as anything. And, like I've got a 6-litre, V8, sedan that I drive, which is got 2-3 inch exhaust coming out of the engine and makes a lot of noise and racket. So of course I like noise and to be noticed, so that's the reason why we fly big noisy planes. So Of course we want to do that.
I'll drink to that. Hey, I'm looking forward to the weather getting nice so the GT6 can come out and be driven a little bit more this year, because that poor thing has been has been ignored a little too much. But it's too small to put any serious airplanes inside of it.
So you can social distance in your Triumph.
Exactly. That's the best thing to do with the Triumph. Just drive. Just drive. That's a whole other show.
Isn't it? No, isn't it crazy at the moment with all this new terminology that we've got to live with as well? Like, it's a couple of months ago, no one ever said COVID-19. Now it's everywhere you look. It's crazy. It's a little bit overwhelming sometimes. Mm-hmm. So to have programs and to chats like this, it's very good for our mind to actually go out and chat, and talk about other things other than the stupid virus at the moment.
Well, that was one of the things I said right away when everybody was asking me, how many podcasts, and I said I'm gonna do as many as I can. I'll do what I can with the energy I have and everything. So, Bill Decker says I need to do a segment on the GT6. I said, maybe we will one day. I can talk about it when set the camera up in the garage and everything. Go live stream out of the garage or something and show you guys what because and. We all go through these, and it sounds so stupid. I'm sounding old, but that represents a journey through my life. That was before RC or in between RC, I guess, and then there was a race car period in there, and then the RC hobby came creeping into my life. So the Tactical Nerd asks, what's happening with Flight Fest? At this time, they are not making a decision. That was the last thing I was discussed with about that, because they are waiting on things that are basically out of their control. So Flight Test will make a decision once they know. Ohio, like any other state, like New York State and everything, are just completely locked down as they try and manage this stuff. So that's all we got right now. So, They're
waiting for the flattening of the curve.
Flat that curve. Flatten it down. Hammer it down. Bang, 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 bang.
Flat that curve.
And it's funny because I was asked if I would go flying with the guys, and they're like, "Oh, we're being all real careful to stand apart," And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make a physical. My work has been super awesome. Well, not that I had a choice, but they're still being really supportive of me, and everything I'm dealing with. And I basically said, you know what, guys? Thanks for the offer. Thanks for the shout out. Thanks for asking, but I'm going to stay home. And like I said, 4:00 in the afternoon one day, maybe after a work day is done, if I've got some batteries charged up, I'll go grab my Tundra and go out and zip out and do a quick flight. But I kind of just want to, don't want to take any risks, and I think that's just a sensible thing to do, because it's that interlinking, and we're seeing more stories. And here I'm talking about a subject I didn't want to talk about. Anyhow, seeing a ton of stories about people that are actually getting sick. They're getting nailed, and they don't know why. So anyhow, so yes, Bill, the short story, possibly we could do that once the weather's nice. Right now, it's still garbage outside. It was raining and pouring and disgusting today, hence why the balsa plane got worked on. Tactical Nerd says, I really hope at least they postpone it, if not not cancel. Only time will tell, buddy. Only time will tell. So I don't know, Steve. I don't think we got much more to. Go ahead.
No, we hope to get back onto flying again and everything back as normal with life as we know it.
Yeah.
Like I said before, we had to close down our flying club, and I think that was we had to be on the front foot because our demographic is very like the older gents.
Yes.
So to have them come in contact with this virus because of the flying club, that's just we had to make that decision to close it.
Yeah.
And it's the best thing to do, and hopefully we can get back into doing these events again. And, like we used to have we probably won't have the Hobby King live event at PMAC, but we used to do that. But we still have events, like our Warbirds Day and everything else. And we have other events, and we've got our own event in November where we have a free flight of everything we can to fly. And, we do all that bits and pieces, which always attracts a decent crowd.
Yeah.
And we've had to cancel until further notice. So it's pretty sad state of affairs when you sort of, you can't go out and do that stuff, but that's just life, unfortunately, and that's.
We had the same thing. The club made those decisions. Sorry, MAC, the Model Association, Aircraft Association of Canada, they came down saying, "Okay, this is what we recommend." Hey, Pooch, and then it just progressed from there, and finally the club just said, the club said, okay, we're shutting it down, kind of thing. So, which is same deal, demographic wise and everything, and just social responsibility. So, right. All right. So if we don't have any other questions, I think we're probably at a good point to wrap up this podcast, because we've been rambling for like 90 minutes already, man. So
and it's there's been probably 20 minutes of useful information out of all of that. So
that's the way it always goes. That's the way it always goes. The point is, we did the effort. We put out the, we collaborated across the continents to bring you this lovely podcast. To everybody who popped in during the live stream, thanks for hanging out. Everybody listening, we will continue to try and do some shows. I'm working with Callie, trying to get her to get on the show. That's a technological challenge, because she actually doesn't have a really reliable internet, so I've got to figure out how to get my my cell phone wired into the sound system, so I got to go and procure some equipment for that. Working to talk to Seth Arnold from Flex Innovations, so we'll get him going, and yep. So they're very keen to come in, and then I still owe Joshua Orchard his moment in the hot seat. Steve's been on the hot seat before, so we don't need to ask him the same questions and everything. But Joshua Orchard wants to come on and talk about building techniques.
You have to ask me one question.
Ask you one question.
You have to ask me one question. Yeah, one question from the hot seat.
One question.
Otherwise, I feel as I've,
okay, all right.
I'm missing out. Or a random question from the people who may be listening.
Well, yeah,
what have you got for me?
I'm dreaming up something here. So, let's see. If you had to pick your ultimate plane to fly, and like talking a good 6 months of solid flying of the same aircraft, what would you pick?
Ooh. That's a good one.
I know.
That's a good one.
I'm going to have to write that down.
And I know it. I know the answer.
All right.
I know the answer. Because I've flown one. Not mine. I borrowed it. But I've flown one. And I've got one. And I'm going to build it. And I know this thing is going to be well flown. And I know that I'm going to get at least a few years out of it, and that would be the free-wing Venom.
There you go.
But I have all intentions to turn it into a Sea Venom.
A Sea Venom? Ooh. Isn't that going to require a little body molding?
Oh, yeah, 100%. But I know that after a couple of years of, like, at least 6 months of flying it, I'm going to get bored. So it's going to be an extension of the front. Yeah, so basically it's got a very similar wing. It's got beefier undercarriage. It's got different tail sections. It's got a different nose. It's a two-seater for a start. So there's plenty of different changes that are going to have to happen, but that's something that I want to do. So there you go. That'll be my long-term thing, is to have a Venom, fly it, and then convert it to a Sea Venom.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice. Well, there you go. Yeah, the Venom was high on my list of aircraft to go, but it was always out of stock, or I felt it was just too old in its life cycle. But I could be wrong, because
we always know that Navy guys fly better than Air Force guys.
Nah. On that note, on that bombshell, good night. Right? Where's the music? Where's the music? I gotta find that music extra. There we go. All right, Steve, I want to thank you for coming on the show this afternoon, this evening, this morning, whatever time and day it is everywhere.
It's been a lot of fun.
All right.
I have to go back to work.
Yes, do that. Everybody else, for the rest of the week, stay tuned. We will. I'll let everybody know when the next show comes out and what we're doing and everyone. Thanks for all the subscribers. Thanks for all the Patreons. People that we owe stickers to, hang in there. I ran out of stamps, and I'm not going to the post office anytime soon. So, on that note, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Ciao.